Hi, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another workshop from Pivot. And today it's a very interesting topic that we have going on. It's all about sales. So we have two brilliant speakers backstage with us, Oindrilla Chakraborty and Shahjad Khan. And what we are going to talk about are the secrets of top 1% sales professionals. Um, we chose this topic because at Pivot we help professionals from various backgrounds, and sales professionals have definitely been in our top two or top three in terms of helping provide career support to achieve their goals. And so we thought it would be good to talk about some of the challenges and the goals that folks in sales typically face. And without further ado, I would like to bring our speakers up to the stage here. All right, perfect. Hi, Undula and Shahzad. I hope you both are doing well.
Hey Arjun, yes, and hello to everyone out there.
Hi,
Great.
Arjun, and hi, everyone out there. Good
And
evening.
you can hear me fine. I can hear you both fine and see you fine. Yeah?
Completely fine,
Okay.
yes. Loud and clear.
Perfect. All right. So we'll get started with a quick round of intros and then, start with the topic, just dive right in. So I can go first. For those who don't know me, my name is Arjun and I am the founder at Pivot. What we do at Pivot is help people make smooth and successful career related transitions. What that means is it could be a job switch, or it could be a slightly more ambitious transition, like maybe changing your domain, industry, your level in the organization, sometimes even countries, right? We've been seeing a lot of that actually recently. But we'll talk more about how we do it throughout the course of this conversation. But we do these regular sessions with our industry experts who are very experienced professionals. So today, as I already mentioned, we have Oindrilla and Shahzad. So we will be talking about sales with them. So, Oindrilla, I would turn it over to you, and if you could just share a little bit about your background and what you do today, that would be great.
Sure. So I think I have the most standard educational background when it comes to Indian kids who grew up in middle class families. I did my engineering from BITS. I went to BITS Pilani for my undergrad. Did not graduate in engineering, but chose to do biological sciences. But that's a story for another day. And I went to ISB for my MBA. So that's a bit about my educational background. In terms of my experience, I would say I've donned a bunch of hats. Right after my undergrad, I was an associate at a boutique consulting firm that cater to medical device companies across the globe. Um, After ISB, I wanted to join the media industry because the gender ratio seemed like a much better one than most traditional industries. That's what sort of pushed me to join the media industry. I joined as a brand lead, but slowly but steadily, I transitioned into sales. Did sales for traditional media companies, did sales for new age digital media companies, then joined a media tech SaaS company like Amagi, and I've been here for the last 3 years. So that's about me.
Perfect. All right. And then we'll go to Shahzad. Shahzad, the same thing. Please go ahead.
I'm also educationally an engineer. Finished my engineering in 2019, and right after that, by the second year, third year of engineering, I understood, SaaS sales is something which I'm interested into, and since then, 2025, I've been doing the same. Only sold all across the globe, from SMB to enterprise, to all different continents, and basically, I like to introduce myself just straightforward that I'm just a sales guy. And if you have any issues with respect to sales, building sales engine, or understanding the psychology of sales, whether it is SMB, enterprise, or mega deals, multi-country contracts, yes, so that's where my expertise lies in. And yeah, matlab, if you leave out the educational part, I started doing sales from the age of 13 itself. By holding party passes, making some commission out of it, and that's what I understood growing up. That there's somebody who's selling it, somebody who's buying it. The salespeople make a cut out of it, and that's how the life has been gone.
So you're a born natural. Great. All right. So before I start with the topic intro, just one question, very simple, quick question. If you could give a very short answer to it, that would be great. Uh, and I won't put anybody on the spot, so whoever goes first is fine. What is the one thing that got you into sales?
The excitement of bringing revenue to the table, I guess.
All right, great. Shahzad?
Money.
Okay, okay, got it.
I'll
So
be
the
honest.
reason,
We have to be honest, I guess, right? So I'm being very
yeah,
transparent
please,
because
absolutely.
my LinkedIn crowd will expect that from me. So
No, absolutely. I'm glad that both of you were sort of off the cuff and very direct about this. I'll tell you why I asked this question. At Pivot, the number one career background that we get people from to change their careers out of something is sales. Okay. So the reason I asked this because I think sales is not for everybody. Sales can be a tough career. Okay. And I'm not saying it's all bad. There's definitely a lot of positives, and I wanted to highlight those by asking you what got you interested in sales to begin with. I think money and bringing revenue is kind of the lifeblood of the organization. If you don't have that, the organization doesn't exist, right? So it could be not everybody's cup of tea, but it's very necessary. So that's why I wanted to ask that. Now, I wanted to start by quickly saying that every career has its pros and cons, right? Every career, at least from my vantage point, I've seen enough to know that not everything is gung ho in every single career. There are going to be downsides. Sales has its own, and that's one of the reasons we are having this conversation today, to understand what really drives the most motivated and successful sales professionals to not just stay within the field, but be really good at it and feel positive and motivated throughout. Right. So the first thing that I want to talk about is, you know, the mindset that both of you have when you face challenges in sales. It may sound like we are starting right, in the, I don't know, like 100 feet trenches, like on the rough days, what are you going through? But I don't want to, go through the pleasantries or the positives, because I think everybody knows that already. So let's go to the part that most people are expecting to hear from us about. And so, Oindrilla, let's start with you.
Right. I think at some level, first of all, one needs to accept that a sales role on a lot of days will feel like a treadmill job. Because even if you've done fantastic in a quarter, the next quarter goal,
The
target
cycle starts again.
looming on the top of your head, right? So I don't think there is any other way to deal with this other than being stoic about it. And this is coming from someone who has been in sales for almost 10 years now, right? Revenue or revenue oriented roles. That's literally the only thing that uh, can keep you going. Also, accepting that year after year, when you do sales, you will have a bad quarter at least once. Even the most successful salespeople have at least a few bad quarters in their life. There are times when you are like, "Good God, how will I meet my target?" But I think there are two main characteristics that help people to survive in sales. One is stoicism. At the end of the day, you have to be a little stoic about it. And sometimes stoicism could also mean that you first start lying to yourself that you are stoic about it, and then start truly feeling stoic about it. And the other would be that at the end of the day, you need to back yourself. You have to tell yourself that if I can't do it, no one else can. This is something that I should be able to do it. I have been given this job because I bring certain skills to the table, and I ought to be the person who gets this done. I think these are the two main characteristics that really help someone going, especially when the days are tough, because the tough days are going to be there. There is no sales career without tough days.
No, well said. And I think that part about stoicism and kind of keeping your calm, composed nature despite the failures, I think it's so important in so many different fields, especially sales. You're absolutely right. But even in job search, like I've seen, when you're applying to jobs, nobody's expecting like 90-95% of companies to respond, right? You might even get ghosted. You might have spent an entire day perfecting an application and then you just don't hear back at all. So those days happen. So I think that point is just so critical. Thanks for highlighting that. Shahzad, please go ahead.
Yeah. So I have made some points. Thanks, Andela, for that. So I like to add upon few things on that. Number one, start loving the word or the digit zero. As a salesperson, as Andela was saying, that you will have those months, those weeks, those quarters, where things will not move, because sales, you cannot control everything. There are a lot of uncontrollable variables in sales which is beyond your control. And so start loving that word zero. If you have to say abruptly, every salesperson, every month, every quarter starts with zero. So have that mindset that it's completely fine. Second, I myself feel that motivation is a cliche now. Anybody whom I have seen is disciplined and has a repeatable system. Like, start following a system of framework. That's how you stay in the game for long, and you play this game again and again, again and again. Yeah. So start loving the word, digit zero, and have a discipline, have a system, a system in place, instead of maybe having some kind of motivational thing, because this is a rough game which you want to play, and you're going to play it for 30-40 years of your career. So you need to have that systems in place. And majorly why salespeople get frustrated is that they don't like the boring jobs. Let's just say, if you'll ask me to get up, suit boot, and go to a demo, give a presentation, everybody will love it. But the dirty things, the boring things, sending follow-up emails, sending reminders, giving them the nudge, these are small things, which make somebody from good to great. So, as they say, boring is powerful. Start living the boring jobs in sales role also.
You guys are full of really good wisdom, I have to say. I mean, that those are such great points to get started with. Um, and it's really grounded in reality. I think both of you, you're not sidestepping the issue. You've acknowledged that sales is hard. There are going to be tough days, but there are frameworks, mindsets, tools that you need to keep in your arsenal to be able to be successful. I think Shehzad, the love the boring parts, and as they say, eat the frog, meaning do the hardest parts when you're in the best mood or mindset. I think that is fantastic. Really, really important point. Now, the next part, right? Like, this is the part which I think most sales professionals either make or break because of this. And correct me if I'm wrong, right? But how do you develop lifetime relationships with the right people who are not there for just one transaction, but are there because they believe in you? They believe in your capabilities to address any problem they are facing professionally, and they trust that you will have the gumption to tell them, don't buy my product or don't purchase this also, uh, if it doesn't serve the client's needs. So how do you uh, build that trust? How do you build relationships in today's world, especially when so many things have moved online, that you might not always be able to go into your clients' offices and visit them? I mean, you both are from tech company background, so I'm guessing a lot of the work happens on video calls or just on calls. So if you could share some time tested principles, and perhaps some new realizations which you've had along the way of how to build, nurture, and retain these relationships with clients. Oindrilla, will again start.
Yeah, I think one of the most important and underrated, mantras in sales is that a lot of, a lot of misconceptions around the sales personalities is that, you got to be flamboyant. You need to have, a larger than life personality. Yes, that that works. But I do feel that it's a more yesteryear mantra than what is expected today. In this day and age, when especially enterprise customers, right, who are writing you large checks, or any customer for that matter, even an SMB customer is writing you a check that is large for them. Um, they got to trust the person that they are writing the check to, because they are placing the trust in you, right? At the end of the day, you are their key point of contact for the company. I think the only thing that really works is making the customer feel that they are in good hands, and that means even on days, and again, when we say that sales can be tough, it's not just tough because you're not meeting targets. There are days when you are getting a verbal getting to hear a sound hearing from your customer because things have not worked out. Sometimes you walk into a job and there has been stuff that did not work out before you even joined. You don't even have the context, and the first day of your work you're at the line of fire, right? The only thing that works is making the customer feel that, hey, you're in good hands. I remember this is around, I would say, 2 years back. I was in the US for work, and I had come back to attend an industry event in Mumbai. And I knew that one of my key customers was not happy in India, back in India, did some mail exchanges and stuff. And I knew that I would be meeting them at the event, right? I don't think I even got to enter the main area, the venue hall where the event was happening. I was accosted by my customer right outside the venue hall, and they were like, "What's up? What's happening? We write you." And you can imagine a customer in India who's an enterprise grade customer is not going to be easy on you if things are not going their way. I assure you that was not a pleasant conversation. But I think what changed everything going at 3 months down the line, those were the same people who wrote us a testimonial. So the only thing that matters is when a customer is complaining to you, accept your mistake. You know, have the moral gumption to say that yes, this is where we messed up. This is how we'll make good for you, and this is our plan. And 2 3 months down the line, you will not just have a complaint for us, you will be writing a testimonial for us, and those things matter. And these then become your lifelong evangelists, because these customers are not going to stick to the same organization where they started doing business for you, right? They move to different parts of the industry, and I assure you a lot of them have been those people who my job referrals, even before I have ever applied, have actually come from customers who have moved around in different parts of the industry,
Yep.
because they feel that this is someone that you can trust. This is someone who will solve your problem, especially when days are bad. That's the only thing that matters. And with AI making everything obsolete, most of our jobs obsolete, most of the activities that we do obsolete, the only thing that that humans will bring to the table is being human. And I'm not talking about Salman Khan's brand. What I'm talking about is being human in terms of empathizing with your customer and telling them that, hey, if you're having a bad time with our product, if you're having a bad time with our services, we'll solve that for you.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very important point. And see, if everything's working fine, people don't really think that much about it. It's when things are not working fine and how you handle those challenging, like the confrontation you talked about, Andrila, when you're unprepared, you're thinking go somewhere and meet a couple of friends or industry peers, and suddenly you're accosted and ambushed, right? I mean, these are the kind of situations which can really throw people off. And I think how you handle these tough situations are the make or break. Shehzad, I think we may have, at a high level, talked about some of your key mantras of building relationship last time as well when you
Great.
were here with us.
Great.
But
So,
but
yeah,
yeah, please go ahead. I just wanted to, give one different angle, if that's okay, for this time, which is that, how do we make sure that we are not just doing volume based relationship building today. What's happening, and I'm seeing this a lot, right? When people come to us also, they want to get in front of as many people as they can. Like, for example, let's say we connect them to industry experts and mentors and stuff like that, right? A lot of folks have this natural inclination to say, connect me with all of them, rather than thinking that I should connect with a few who are the right fit and then really invest my time and effort in building those relationships, which will serve for the long term. And maybe you have a different perspective on this, so feel free to share that. But this question of volume versus depth of relationship, how do you solve for that?
right. So for us, address the relationship part, then I'll come to the volume part. As Oindrilla rightfully talked about the customers part of relationship, I'll talk a little bit about the pre-customer. Like let's just say until they have not paid us yet. Yeah. So number one is that from my understanding, the relationship starts getting building from the right time when you give a cold call. From that point of time itself, the relation starts getting built. So in that part, make sure when you're doing the discovery or when you're listening to that person, don't listen to answer, listen to understand. One is that important thing, because if you're really understanding what that person is telling, you will resonate with that person and that person will feel good. But if you are just listening to answer it back, then you are just like any other telecaller who gives call day in day out. Yeah. The second important thing is learn to say no or learn to walk away. People respect that. Let's just say if you do not have a product which can cater to their problem, learn to say no, or learn to say, at this point of time maybe this we will not be able to. What I'm trying to tell you is that don't do mis-selling or cross-selling. Yeah. Why? Because as Oindrilla said, people shift different organization in span of 30-40 years of their career. Yeah. So they remember what type of person you are. So don't do mis-selling here. Other one is that make that customer feel, basically, this is what I've learned from my mentor, that number one is that most of the people say that your success is my success. This we would have heard from 90% of salespeople. The real challenge comes when you can make that person feel that, boss, your success is my success, but your failure is also my failure. If you're able to get to this second layer of feeling with that customer, that not just success but your failure is also my failure, then you come into that inner circle of that particular person. Then you become that go-to person. Let's just say if I have to purchase something, maybe if you're from that industry, or let's just say if you're into software sales, that person might give you a call to understand that how are these softwares. Yeah. Even though I'm in HR tech right now where I sell to, or CFO tech which I sell to, people still call me from my previous industry, that was FMCG. So because they feel that, okay, this guy might be knowing something about tech or something about this particular product, because I have sold them right products. Yeah. So that is one thing is that. Now coming to your volume game, yes, I also don't largely believe on spray and pray. There's a say that niche it to get it rich. So let's just say if you have if somebody says connect me to everybody, that person is actually not asking for any connection. That person is just asking for hopes. So if anybody wants to play this volume game, I think in 2025, that's not going to work out. You will have to understand what type of persona, what type of niche you want to target. The more and better niche you make, the messaging, the personalization can happen at that level, which will resonate with people, and the way of connecting will increase.
You're on mute, Arjun, I
You're
think.
on mute, Arjun.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, Andrela, did you have a follow up or something?
No, no, no. I was just saying
No.
that you're on
Okay. Okay. No worries. Yeah. So Shehzad, I think very valid point, and in regard with kind of making sure that you are not just thinking about the success, but that if there are risks associated that the client might face, those also get taken care of by you and are impacting you as well. I think that's a very valid point.
I would just like to add, one of my first boss taught me, Shahzad, I'll put it in Hindi and then I'll convert it in English. that अगर किसी से 1 रुपया लिया है ना तो उसको 2 रुपए का सर्विस दो. What I mean is that let's just say if you have taken 1 rupees from a customer, make that person feel that that person has paid you 2 rupees. You continue with that mindset, that customer will be loyal to you irrespective of wherever or whatever you're selling.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think a lot of people do strive to do that. I don't know how many of them actually do it, but yeah, I think a lot of this also happens. How hungry you remain. Like early on, when you're a new sales professional or perhaps a new professional, you are looking to do that. But as you grow and the company becomes larger, I've seen like they change the formula and then they start jacking up prices. They start charging all these additional things. But I think, yeah, if you continue with that philosophy, that could really help. The one thing that you mentioned, Oindrilla, I think during your last answer was with AI making a lot of things obsolete, right? One of the only things that will stay relevant for human beings is to stay human and build relationships, right? Let's flip the script a little bit. So we talked about the human part. Let's talk about the AI, right? Um, how do you use AI today in your day to day, or how's your team using AI? And apart from just the tools,
Right.
how has the game changed because of AI for you?
For me, I'm not going to delve into the obvious. Obviously, we are a tech company, so we do use, we are exploring how to use AI, specifically speaking, agentic frameworks in terms of, a product strategy, etc. But I won't get into that. In terms of my day-to-day job, look, we have considering I'm in tech sales, I really need to deep dive into the under the hood product, right? I need to understand the nuances of the product really, really well. I need to understand the nuances of the tech industry really well, be it the media tech industry or the ad tech industry. In the ad tech industry, the joke is that you within 2 or 3 weeks there's a new acronym that comes up, right? And you need to start figuring out what that means, how that impacts your business. So when I 15 years back, when I started as an associate, what I would do is do a lot of research, secondary research, using Google Advanced Search. I would use PubMed because I was in the medical device industry. I would use Google Scholar and create those deep research reports. Today, I think when I have to figure out under the hood tech, I just ask the right prompt, and within 15 minutes I have a deep research report at my disposal with triangulated data. I also think that the way we are forecasting is changing a lot with AI. The way we are, because forecasting is one of the key pillars of having a reliable sales engine, a predictable sales engine. The way we predict churns have become a lot more nuanced because of AI. The way we a lot of our businesses, when we talk about SaaS, we only think of subscription revenue. What we don't realize that a lot of SaaS or tech businesses are based on consumption revenues, right? uh, un- Understanding how your consumption revenue is going to grow, because there are so many externalities that consumption revenues are based on, becomes has become a lot more predictable using AI. You can literally run regression analysis to understand the pattern of your consumption revenue. So I think every function, be it sales, definitely product, marketing, everyone uses AI.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is something that we need to start using and leveraging to increase productivity. That's the way we can that's the only way. That's one of the upskilling that all of us really need to look into.
Yeah, I thanks for sharing all those use cases there. Very interesting to hear all the different things that you've been doing. Now, Shehzad, just again, slightly different angle here for you. Um, Honest answer, right? Like, do you think AI has made things easier for most sales professionals? And not just easier, have has AI equipped sales professionals to actually become more productive and successful? Because I mean, if that's happening, then we should see a huge rise in productivity and revenues and outcomes across the board, right? But I don't know if that's happening across the board. So, what are you seeing in terms of AI's promise versus AI's realistic on the ground outcomes?
Fine. Let me give this answer with an example. So the two questions is that whether the AI makes it easier, the sales job and the productive. For an example, let's just say me, Oindrilla, or let's say Arjun, you want to target a company XYZ. Now you are targeting that person, that company's CFO, or let's just say any particular chair, and you understand that there might be some kind of reports the company has generated. Download that report, put it in just chat gpt, forget about some fancy, what do you say, AI tools. Just put it in chat gpt, write that this is the persona, these are their key problems. Yeah, chat gpt will read that entire document and will give you those 5 6 pointers which is required by you, either in the demo, either in the call, or either in the email. Now, number one, let's just say that report was 40 50 page. It is saving you time, it is making your life easier. You do not have to go through that 40 50 page, you just need those 4 5 points, AI is giving you that. Now, that entire work will take not more than 5 minutes, or at max 2 minutes, or not even 1 minute. It is saving your time, it is making you productive. Yeah, so if you use AI right way, it definitely makes salespeople's life easier, as well as make them more productive. The only thing is, number one, you should be aware what type of tools exist in the market and how to use it. And second thing, you should have that urge to use AI.
Mhm. Got it. Got it. All right. So I think generally it sounds like there's a lot of positive momentum on AI across the board for all functions, including sales. It seems like I think sales and marketing have probably been the number one customers for AI companies who are selling products, if I'm not mistaken. So makes sense. Now I want to make this interactive. We have a lot of audience here who's watching this, and in this format they can unfortunately only ask questions in chat, but we do have a couple of questions coming in, and we'll take them up as they come and then move to other topics as well. But there's one question that we have from Anmol, and firstly he's complimenting both of you on the nuance insights. I agree, it's not your run of the mill conversation, a lot of new things here. But his questions are twofold. One is, how does sales differ from other similar roles like growth manager role, GTM role, strategy role? Is there any big difference, or are they similar? So that's one. And I don't know if I think, Undrilla, you said you have been in branding, marketing, done a couple of different things. So maybe this could be a good one for you to take up. And then the second question is, B2B sales is particularly, or is largely about long-term relationships. So how do sales skills become transferable if we are changing industries, especially in the initial phase? Right. Okay. So we'll start with the first one. Angela, do you want to go first on that?
Sure. Well, I would say that there are roles where I guess a salesperson can bring in a lot of nuance or transferable skills, and talking about the first one. But let's look at GTM roles, right? Um, if you look at a lot of SaaS companies like SpotDraft, the GTM team, and I'm taking real life examples, the GTM team has a lot of, is being led by people who are actually people who have come from strategy roles, consulting roles, for that matter, roles in VC, where they have actually not done sales, right? Because at the end of the day, in a GTM role, a lot of your insights come from the fact, come from the amount of research that you can do. How well can you understand the nuance of the market? Say if I have to, launch a business in Afrikaans, Do I understand the nuances of the market? Do I understand the movers and shakers of the market, right? So sales can be great, a salesperson can be great in in some of those roles, but at the end of the day you should be one of those people who can do the research, who can plan that framework and ensure that the sales organization executes it. The sales organization will execute it, but GTM is coming up with the framework to help you crack that market, whatever that market is. Could be a market like Africans, could be a market, it could also be how do we create a strategy for enterprise accounts, or how do we create a strategy for SMB accounts, right? So it needn't necessarily be sales. Having an understanding of sales is very important, because you don't want to until and unless, as the famous saying goes, execution eats strategy for lunch. So until and unless your plan is is people can execute on your plan, it doesn't really work. But you don't necessarily need to be a salesperson, right? In terms of, I think, what were the other roles? Let me just take a look at
It's
strategy.
strategy and growth. Yeah.
Yeah. Similar to, I would say, GTM is a very specialized form of strategy role, right? In GTM, you are talking about cracking a special sliver of a market. It could be a geographical market, it could be a specific market within the realm of, say, enterprise, SMB, so on and so forth. When we talk about strategy, strategy is a larger play. The strategy could be RevOps strategy, strategy could be your product strategy, strategy could be your marketing strategy, right? There are multiple things that fall under the gamut of strategy. Again, a salesperson could very well move to a strategy role, or vice versa. But it's a far more you know higher level thinking, where you're trying to understand how you want to probably in a product strategy role, you are trying to understand what would your how you want to strategize your PMF. How do you want to ensure that your products have that pull factor in the market? It could also be whether you are trying to figure out whether your company should have a product led growth, or should it have a sales led growth. Strategy is way wider. Like I said, GTM would probably, a good way to think about it is, GTM is a subset of your overall strategy. um, I think I hope I've managed to answer some of these questions.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the next one was about B2B sales being about long term relationships. I think the question here is, let's say I'm working in SaaS, right? Both of you have SaaS experience, but now let's say I I'm going from SaaS to like AI deep tech, or I'm going to consumer tech or something, right? Now, would the things that I have learned in SaaS for sales and the relationships that I have built, how do I transfer them into these new environments? Shehzad, do you want to take a stab? And then Ondrilla, we'll definitely get your thoughts as well.
uh, what are we end of the day? Just a question to you, Arjun.
What are we end of the day?
We all are
People, I
humans.
guess. Yeah.
Human, we all are people. So your job will change, your industry will change, everything will change, but people to people connect doesn't change. That's the reason I mentioned that, having a system, having a disciplined workable methodology should be in place. Your product definitely plays a very very important role in your career and in your sales number, but that will be, I would suggest, somewhere around 25 to 30%. Rest of the 70% is your sales skills, your systems, your frameworks, the discipline that you follow, and that remains consistent throughout your life. So let's just say if you are selling to, let's just say, CBOs or the sales head, you move to a company which all of a sudden starts selling to HR. Your sales process doesn't changes, right? Your cold calls doesn't changes, your pitch changes, your industry knowledge changes, but the process doesn't changes. Like, you connect to a person, you do a discovery, you do a demo, you go, you move the call, you do negotiation, and you close it. These steps doesn't changes irrespective of the industry. So these things is what, people I feel are lacking. Because the end of the day, if you want to play this game for a very very long term, you should have three things in your place. What you do should be replicable. Why? Then you'll be able to manage a team. It should be repeatable. That's the reason you need frameworks. Otherwise, you'll be working out of whims and fancies. And third thing is it should be scalable. If you're only the person who can do it, and if you cannot do this in a multiple group of people, then eventually you will fail. So if you have any system which is scalable, repeatable, and replicable, any industry you go, any market you go, you'll be able to thrive. But yeah, if you are in the same industry, you get an edge. It's just if somebody has sold AI throughout their life, obviously they'll have much better connect. They will know a lot more things in detail. But again, this hardly affects the sales of any person if you have the systems in place.
Got it. Oindrilla, I think you had some thoughts here as well, right?
Yeah, I think I have done the opposite, right? Where I used to be in the digital ad sales world and I moved to a SaaS role.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I'm a cricket fan, not that I watch cricket, but I think one analogy that really works and resonates with everyone, and I use this shamelessly despite not being a cricket fan, is the analogy of Test cricket versus ODI. Right? Think of SaaS sales or B2B sales, especially enterprise customers, as test cricket mentality. um, how do you have a stable framework to ensure that you get those reliable revenues from your customer at the end of the day, because your sales cycles are also going to be long. Whereas you when you are looking at a consumer tech, to your point, right? E-commerce or digital ad sales, there's a daily run rate with your revenue. So the principles of cricket remain the same, but it's your mentality that changes, and that is what allows you to apply those same skills in a very different way when you're playing Test cricket versus when you're playing ODI, right? You do have a very short-term goal on a day-to-day basis when you are working in an industry that has a daily run rate, that looks at a daily run rate. Whereas when you are working for a SaaS company, when you're working for particularly say enterprise customers where the sales cycles are super long, you are looking at a different mentality, so to speak. And speaking of frameworks, I think one of the transferable skills everywhere is the truth lies in your CRM tool. How well you use the most boring aspect of your job, which is your CRM tool, that will always reveal the truth of how healthy your pipeline is,
Mm-hmm.
whether you're trending well or not to closure. Is this the right kind of customer also or not?
Mm.
Because not what we fail to realize is that not every revenue is good revenue, because sometimes some of those revenues can churn, and that's probably not a repeatable mantra of success for you. So I guess that's the transferable, that doesn't change, that the truth lies in your CRM tool doesn't change whether you're in a business that has daily run rate or a long sales cycle.
Mm. No, fair enough. And I think I'm glad that you made a cricket analogy, because what's a workshop or a conversation on sales or any corporate topic for that matter without a cricket analogy? I think half the books I have read on corporate mantras in India have some or the other. But I think it's fair, right? It's fair to say that you will need to have different skills, different mindset for the kind of game that you're playing here, right? And so if you are in different industries, or even let's say different type of clients within the same industry, let's say an SMB versus enterprise, you'll need a different toolkit altogether. You can't force with the same thing everywhere.
Just to
Makes a
add,
lot of
Arjun, from my experience, the real money and the real learning happens in 0 to 1. Everybody in sales would have had to have a job where they will have to do the 0 to 1 for a company or for their own organization. And if you do not have these things, you have to every day fight with unknowns. How will you scale it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. I think it helps get those first principle thinking, right? Like you're starting from scratch, you're building things from the ground up, and you don't have any prejudice of saying this is what works, so let me just apply this again. You have to think through ki kya chalega, what's going to work in that.
Correct.
Yeah, no, makes sense. All right, we have this next question here from Rahul, and I'll pull it up here. Shahzad, I think this one's for you specifically. It says Shahzad mentioned having systems and repeatable framework in order to excel in sales. Can you shed more light from an SDR POV? Okay, so SDR is Sales Development Representative, if I'm not
Correct.
mistaken. Okay. Um, so Shahzad, yeah, I mean, please feel free to share your thoughts on this.
Can you share more light on SDR? Fine. So see, SDR as a job role is the most beautiful job role or the foundational skill which any salespeople can have. I would suggest, even if I look back to whatever I have achieved, is because of my SDR skills. So make sure that you do this job very rightly and very diligently. Learn frameworks like how to evaluate deals through Medpic. Learn frameworks like how to ask questions through Spin. Yeah, learn frameworks like how to do consultative sales, what the enterprise requires. So these are few of the frameworks. Again, you can Google it. I'm just sharing few of my top, like to review the deals, it is Medpic. To ask questions, I use Spin. And let's just say, if you have if you, as an individual, you should operate out of ICE model. I means individual, C means circumstances, E means environment. So let's just say if something goes wrong, rather than blaming the environment, first see what you are doing right or what you are doing wrong. These are few things which is very much required for the SDR community. And if you are able to learn these skills very right early at your career, no matter whether you become an AE, whether you become a manager, director, VP, or a CRO, you know how to generate your pipeline. And there is a saying in sales that pipeline is everything. Your pipeline is good, your mental health is good. Your pipeline is good, your CRM looks green. Your pipeline is good, your manager is also happy. Yeah. So this helps you to build pipeline. And if you know this skill properly, you will fly along and very early in your career. So Rahul, if I have answer, if not got the answer completely, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll be able to help you in more details.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, actually, I'm glad that you pointed that out. Anybody who is thinking about getting any personalized feedback on their specific career goals or any dilemmas you might be facing in your career, please do reach out to Oindrilla and Shahjad. And we do have folks like them on our platform on Pivot as well, in case you'd like to have these one-on-one discussions. I think a lot of times what happens in group settings is you get very good insights like you might be getting right now, but not everybody's context or background is exactly the same. So the insights can be more personalized and tweaked when you reach out to people one-on-one. Until, any thoughts from you about this whole repeatable frameworks from an STR POV question?
I think, yeah, my answer also would have been a MEDPIC or MEDIC framework, because at the end of the day, we have to look at the entire consumer funnel, right? How does your consumer funnel look? And SDRs play a very, very important role. They come in, they walk into the room, into the consumer funnel even before sales folks like us do. And these are the frameworks where a lot of truth lies. Again, it's boring. It seems very, very trite at times, but it works. It works beautifully. And of course, you need to be smart enough to contextualize it for your industry. You need to be smart enough to contextualize it for your products. But by and large, these are the frameworks that really work well.
Okay. I think the other thing that I wanted to really talk about here is, this whole notion that I was talking about earlier, that many sales professionals do want to leave sales and do something else. At least that's been the number one or number two career field where we get a lot of professionals from, right? And as much as we like to get business, at the same time, I want to understand, like, why are people actually leaving? And so one of the main reasons is something that we have indirectly alluded to during this conversation, but it's really burnout, right? People get burnt out. When you talked about, Shahzad, you said love the number zero because you're restarting every quarter. Undrella, you said something to the same effect earlier. I mean, there is a positive aspect to it, which is like it keeps you, on your feet and nimble, and you're always striving and hungry. But at the same time, if you're doing that day in day out, and there are, your manager and your clients are really breathing down your neck to meet the numbers on a quarterly basis. For a lot of people, it becomes a sort of negative environment to be in, right? Especially if you're feeling challenged in terms of achieving your goals. So I wanted to understand, apart from the resilience items that we talked about, if you do get burnt out, how do you get out of that? Or, I mean, are there any other good prevention techniques that you can share, especially targeted towards sales folks?
I would give an answer which is not work related.
That's absolutely okay.
I think for sales folks, and especially if you're continuing to be in it for decades, you need to have a life outside of work. There is no way in hell that you will come back on Monday to your forecast call and be okay with it week after week until and unless you have something outside of work. And that has to be a healthy diet of a different bunch of things, right? Working out for sales folks is absolutely imperative. You cannot survive without workout, at least in the long term, is what I feel. Because yeah, yes, it's healthy, etc., but you need those endorphins to keep yourself going, right? So have that regime, and this is the biggest gift that you can give yourself. Especially Shahjad graduated in 2019, so he's still young blood, but for a lot of us who are in the tail end of our 30s or in our 40s, there's no way in hell that we can survive. We have to think of it like a long term game, right? And workout is super important. I'm not saying that go sit under a banyan tree and start meditating, but having shutdown process is super important, especially for folks like us who do sales in India. We need to understand that it's not just about the forecast calls on a Monday or Tuesday if you work with US folks. It's also your customers who don't stop reaching out to you, probably even on WhatsApp at ungodly hours, right? You need that mental shutdown. You need, and when people say and this is a personal advice that I would like to give to people, and I think that that works really well for me. What has happened, and this is a lot to do, and probably this is I don't know, Arjun, if this is the right forum to talk about it, but a lot of us, especially sales folks, we spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. We see posts where people start their day at 3 a.m. They start they and by the time they hit the bed, they have already changed the world, right? And they are reading a bunch of books as well. My point is, have non-work related hobbies. If you are reading books, read books that are, your standard 0 to 1s and so on and so forth. That's great, but you need to have fun in life. Watch movies and watch movies seriously. If you used to paint as a kid, start painting. If you used to do theater as a kid, figure out a way to at least read, play with the community in the park. You need to have that. If you don't have that, there is no way in hell you will be able to keep that mental fortitude going in sales year after year.
Andrila, more, I mean, I really love the advice that you're giving, but more than the advice, what I like even more, the passion and the deep belief with which you are saying this. And to me, sometimes, what you're saying is important, but how you're saying it is even more. So what I can believe for sure is whatever you have just told our audience has definitely worked for you, right?
Oh,
I,
absolutely.
I completely can, like, without even doubting that for 1 second, it has worked
Yeah.
for you. And I think, that's what's important to understand here, folks. See, everybody's going to have different way of dealing things. Ondrila has shared her recipe, and I do stand by it. I would agree with a lot of the things that I've said. But you will have to experiment. You'll have to try because, like she said, for one person, it could be watching movies. Another person, it could be working out. Third person, it could be, painting or whatever, right? So you will have to try on your own. But I think the common principle here is you will need something outside of work to be able to withstand the the cold, harsh realities of a Monday forecasting call in case you're not meeting the targets. Shahzad, I think this is a really important question that people just don't discuss at work, right? Because it makes you look weak, and it makes you feel like you're not as good as the others because everybody else seems to be flying and doing so well, which is not true. Under the surface, everybody's going through the same kind of thing. So how do you, apart from dealing it yourself, right, dealing with burnout yourself, do you share it with others? Do you find a way to actually be vulnerable and say that I am going through a tough time, I need help, or I would love some kind of tips or support to make through this period, right? Like, is it becoming more acceptable in the corporate environment, especially, to talk about stuff like this and get support?
So the problem, especially with men, is that they feel they are very tough. They are not vulnerable, and that's what causing a lot of this frustration, suicide cases, and depressions in our what do you say society right now. Matlab, what's wrong? Matlab, my team knows what are my weakness. My team knows what I'm bad at. My mom knows, how did my day went. So as Oindrilla was saying, everybody have to live through that at 20s to 30s, 30s to 40s, 40s to 50s. So you will have to plan what do you want to do in those decades of each steps. And it's there is absolutely nothing wrong that if you're saying somebody, see, this is what I'm facing with, I'm feeling sad, or I'm feeling frustrated. The more you will share, I feel it reduces. And it's very much okay to be vulnerable. If you say that I'm not vulnerable at all, then I think something is definitely wrong, and you should talk to a lot more of people.
Okay, got it. And I do feel that, burnout and work-life balance as topics, at least on LinkedIn, I don't know how much of it's happening in every company, but on LinkedIn has become much, much more acceptable.
There's
Rather,
a
I
saying
would
that
say,
love what you do, or love what you do, or do what you love. If you are in that circle, this work-life balance conversation never starts. But yeah, as Audrilla said, I do not know, that stage of life. Maybe that time it might be required. But if you ask me or people of my age, I would suggest this stage of career. Let's focus on work. Let's build careers. Let's make money.
yeah, I think definitely speaking like a true young blood. But I agree with you. I think as long as you feel like you can sustain that, right, and deeply feel that, then I think yes, makes sense. But if you at any point in time feel like I cannot sustain this for X amount of time, then I think you do need to rethink. And I think as much as work-life balance has recently been getting a lot of flack, like everything, all the tried and tested notions do get. Trump is changing the world order by, you know, uh, calling UK and India all kinds of things. So things change, but I think some of these time-tested principles will stay. We have one very last question that I will pull up here on the screen. It's from Prateek again, I believe, and it's all about meeting in person for enterprise B2B sales, even if you have a good reputation and can communicate with the client virtually. Very pointed question, I must say. Um, Ondala, we'll start with you.
Oh, yes,
If you have a,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. See, the good thing is with a lot of these meeting tools, we can do a lot of meetings virtually. But having that face to face connect is absolutely important. Like I said, I was literally, held ransom by my by an enterprise customer at an event. Otherwise, also, like I make it a point to meet them in person, because there are a lot of cues, non-verbal cues, that you can pick up on when you meet your customer in person. You can read a lot between the lines when you meet a customer in person. It's not just important to meet them and talk about work. It is imperative, absolutely imperative, that you take them out for a lunch, you take them out for a coffee, talk about random things. Helps you really understand who your customers are, helps you form that connect. So many times these customers move around different organizations. You know what that happens, what that allows for it to happen? one day this customer will say, even when that customer is in a different organization, they don't say that, oh, I want to buy Amagi, or I want to buy a product from a competitor, so to speak, but they say that I want to buy from Oindrilla because that's a person I trust. So it's absolutely important that you meet people in person. The good thing is we have the liberty and privilege of not having to do every single meeting in person. 10 years back, it was a whole different game. I would say even pre-pandemic, it was a whole different game where you had to be there present in person for even the most unimportant meetings. Now we have the privilege of doing that for selective meetings, but that the importance of in-person meetings and connects never go away. Going this sort of circles back to one of the first questions that Arjun asked, which was around authentic connection building.
Yeah. I think we'll get final thoughts from Shahjad, and then we'll start to wrap up.
About the same question?
Yeah, please.
Fine. So yes, as Oindrilla said, face to face it completely gives a different level of experience when you're meeting people. But from my point of view, what I believe is that we are moving towards a virtual world. Like imagine, like if this infrastructure was not there, probably we wouldn't have been able to do this podcast. So our office is in Whitefield, and there's a customer who sits out of JP Nagar. Customer called and said, Shahjad, why do you want to travel in between the traffics of Bengaluru? Let's connect virtually and let's close it, right? So, and also let's just say today I'm an SDR or I'm an AE or whatever it is my designation. I will have to sell it across the globe. So what I'm trying to tell people is that yes, face to face, any given day will be the best option to interact with customer, but adjust yourself to this virtual setup, adjust yourself how to present yourself virtually, because down the lane, that's how major sales will happen, cross-border sales and international sales. Maybe before signing the contract, customer wants you in their office for that golden handshake to understand the person I'm buying from. But most of the calls will happen virtually, so you have to be ready. I've a lot of time posted about also on LinkedIn that keep the camera on, make sure you're wearing a good shirt, your hairs are combed, have a good background, make sure you're not in a non-noisy place. So this is the future eventually. Virtual sales will happen a lot and it will increase, I believe, over a period of time. So get used to it.
Yeah, it already has increased significantly, like Oindrilla was saying, especially since the pandemic. So absolutely right. I think even though you can probably get a leg up by meeting the client in person, but it's not always possible, and a lot of times you may not really need to do it. And I think both of you have covered that wonderfully. So we should start wrapping things up. I think, how did you both feel about the session? I think it was brilliant. I mean, you covered a lot of topics and you shared very honest and candid takes. You could see, Angela, like I already mentioned, I could see this deep sense of belief with which you were talking about different things. And Shahzad, same for you. So I really appreciate you both spending this evening with me and with our audience. Really, really great session. And some of the points were very hard hitting in terms of accepting the challenges, and the way you have dealt with it in your own careers and the way you espoused it for others. I think hopefully will add a lot of value. So thank you so much. Yeah. And thank you to everybody who joined us today. Thanks for taking out the time. I hope you found this insightful. Again, please do reach out to Shahzad or Oindrilla on LinkedIn or on our platform, wherever you feel comfortable. And feel free to ask them any questions you have about your career journey. Okay, thank you, everyone. I hope you have a good rest of the evening.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye-bye.
Everyone.